The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your host, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Indeed, the gang is all here, at least for this weekend. Next weekend, we'll deal with that next weekend. Things going to be a little bit all over the place on this weekend's edition of CRN because, well, for those of you that are new to the show, producer John came up with an idea some time back about taking and putting the series with the biggest stories up first. Well, this week, the big stories came from, well, everywhere. So we're going to get a little bit of NASCAR. We'll switch to open wheel, return to NASCAR, then check out all the other series. Strap in. It's going to be a fun ride. Hey, we got a team announcing they're going to be done racing at the end of the 2023 season. Got a major signing for 2024 that's surely about to shake up silly season. Got a major injury in Formula One affecting this weekend's race. Superstar Racing Experience has told us when they're going to race next year. We'll tell you about those. And a funny car driver set to pay tribute to his hero.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Or any racing action for that matter as we just get underway here. I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers, not
Morning.
pictured. Hope you all having a fantastic morning. Thank you for joining us. Hey, we got a lot to get to. Got a few pictures to talk about as well, just to kind of give you some visual references if you happen to be on CRN Live on YouTube, which, by the way, is always an option for you wherever you are. I mean, obviously, we're here. If you're, in East Central Alabama, you can check us out on the FM dial at 95.1, the Mountain, our flagship station. You can listen to us in your car by going to the app that they have. But, hey, barring that, CRN Live on YouTube. Subscribe to it. It's free. Tell your friends if you already have. Or if you haven't, subscribe and then tell all your friends. We appreciate it. Hey, let's talk about some racing. Last Saturday, Xfinity Series, Watkins Glen came down to an overtime battle in a bump and run that we were more used to seeing at short tracks like Martinsville and Bristol. Moonlighter Ty Gibbs led the field on the final restart down into the tough turn 1. Sam Mayer overdrove the corner a bit, got into Gibbs, spun Gibbs out. That allowed Mayer to regain control of his number 1 Chevrolet and took the lead. Mayer would hold off the field, claim his second win of the year, said after the race, quote, "I wheel hopped it a bit. That's unfortunate, and I feel bad for doing that." Obviously, you don't want to take out any car like that, just trying to get another win in the Xfinity Series. Got a lot of catching up to do. I was in there, put my nose in there. That's part of it. It's an accident, but I think everyone can agree that it's okay for an Xfinity Series regular to win this race. I don't really have a problem with that.
I don't either.
Ty Gibbs ended up finishing 17th. He responded with let's just call it a passive-aggressive comment. He responded, quote, "We kind of grew up racing together," talking about Mayer. "And I think he has more starts than I do, but this is his second win, so congratulations to him on his second win. Definitely wish I could have gotten my 13th there." Well, try and concentrate on your cup ride then, dude.
Ding, ding, ding.
Mayer wins. Sheldon Creed second. We'll get back to that. Trailed by Parker Kligerman, Moonlighter Ross Chastain, Connor Mosack, John Hunter Nemechek, Cole Custer, Chandler Smith, Moonlighter Alex Bowman 9th, and Jeb Burton finishing 10th. I say we get back to it because Sheldon Creed was on the bubble. Parker Kligerman was the chaser. Notice we didn't use the name Riley Erbst. Yeah, the end result had Creed jumping over Riley Erbst, getting off the bubble, putting Erbst squarely on it. Erbst had a very bad day. I was trying to think of all the trouble he had. I was trying to remember. Was it mechanical or wreck?
No, he had a broken track bar.
Thank you. Mechanical. Call it that. Bad day, and came out of Watkins Glen, went into last night at Daytona with a very slim 3-point lead over Parker Kligerman. We'll get back to the points after we talk about Daytona last night. We go to last Sunday. First up, it was Cup Series of Watkins Glen, and after only one caution flag for the second week in a row, and we'll get back to that later in the news, the driver with the most wins on the season claimed another. Did so in pretty dominating fashion. William Byron and the 24 team had it all going on. They got by the previous week's winner, Michael McDowell, early on, went on to lead 66 of the 90 laps on the day, including the final 33, gets the win. He's followed across the finish line by Denny Hamlin in second, Christopher Bell, A.J. Allmendinger. Ty Gibbs did get a top 10, but not a win. Martin Truex Jr., Chris Buescher also in there, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, and Joey Logano in the top 10. Those that are locked into the playoffs in the Cup Series, Byron, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Chris Buescher, Christopher Bell, Ross Chastain, Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Michael McDowell, all with wins and pointed in now officially after Watkins Glen are both Brad Keselowski and Kevin Harvick. Yes, in that order. Brad Keselowski has jumped over Kevin Harvick in the points. So here it comes. Tonight is it. It's the last regular season race of the year tonight at Daytona. Bubba Wallace continues as the man on the bubble. He's in 16th right now and holding on to that last playoff spot. Heads into tonight's race with a not overly comfortable 32-point lead over Ty Gibbs for 16th. Daniel Suarez is 43 back and still with help could point his way in. But at this time, it's Wallace's to lose. Yeah, he still could, but we've noted this. Of all the tracks that Bubba Wallace is strongest at, Talladega, Daytona, Atlanta, these are 3 tracks he does very well at.
Extremely well at. And that's one that people, you may not like him, but I wouldn't bet against him.
I wouldn't count him out. Final event of last weekend, the NHRA in Brainerd, Minnesota, where once again Pro Stock Motorcycle did not run. We start off with Top Fuel, where Leah Pruitt made it to the finals against Antron Brown. Brown with a quicker reaction time parlays that into the win, 3.715 ET, 326.08 miles per hour. It's win number 2 on the year, 73 of his soon-to-be Hall of Fame career. Robert Height found himself taking on Ron Capps in the Funny Car Finals. Capps with a quicker reaction time. He gets the win, 3.887 ET, 332.75 miles per hour. That's his second win of 2023 and number 75 for his Hall of Fame career. Pro Stock Car came down to a face-off between Dallas Glenn and Kyle Koretsky. Koretsky getting off the light quicker, but his tires wouldn't hold. Glenn goes on to the win, a run of 6.566. That's the elapsed time. 207.56 miles per hour. Glenn claims his fourth win of 2023 and a rather slim, compared to the other two, 8 for his career, but that's to date. He's got a ways to go. And since it's all about locking into the chase for the championship now, we'll deal with who has locked themselves in after Minnesota during NHRA news. But this weekend actually began last night. Daytona Xfinity Series running the Wawa 250 powered by Coca-Cola. We'll get back to that in the news. Again, that was at Daytona. Matt, you got a quick recap for us?
Yeah, your top 10 and what was arguably probably the cleanest drag race finish I've seen in probably 5 years.
Yeah, once they got past 2 overtimes to get to it.
Yeah. You had Justin Allgaier in the flying mayonnaise jar, Hillman Chevrolet, beating Sheldon Creed.
There's that guy
Again.
All of a sudden, he's gotten hot. I don't know what happened. He turned up the wick, I guess.
By 5/1000ths of a second.
One of the closest finishes in Xfinity history there.
Yep. You had Daniel Hemrick third, Parker Kligerman fourth, Cole Custer fifth. Ryan Sieg nearly getting a top 5 after starting shotgun on the field in 38th. He finished P6. Parker Retzloff 7th. Anthony Alfredo 8th. Greg Galding, hello, in 9th. And then Justin Haley rounding out the top 10.
Welcome to Daytona, where names that you don't expect to hear normally get into the top 10.
And then you have 15th, you had Larry Mack, crew chiefing for his son-in-law. Jordan Anderson was 15th. Josh Berry 17th. Sam Mayer was 19th last night. Let's see who else. John Hunter Nemechek got in an accident. He was 28th. Trevor Bayne 29th, which Trevor Bayne should have won the race in my opinion. But hey, it's Daytona.
Yeah, let's talk about Riley Herbst as well, because early in the race he developed a problem, they think, with his steering box. And that caused some problems. He ended up going 3 laps down at one point in time. He was able to avoid everything else throughout the rest of the race to finish
24th.
And that brings us to the points situation here, where there's still 2 more races, by the way, in the Xfinity Series regular season before they get into their playoffs. John Hunter Nemechek leads the way with 5 wins, 4 wins for Austin Hill. Cole Custer, Justin Allgaier, Sam Mayer all tied with 2. Chandler Smith, Sammy Smith, and Jeb Burton each have 1. In on points now are Josh Berry, Sheldon Creed, who has now jumped over Daniel Hemrick, who's 11th. And there's Parker Kligerman now has pointed his way in. He's 12th, jumping over Riley Herbst. Top 5 finish for Parker Kligerman. Again, barely inside the top 25 for Riley Herbst. And Herbst now is outside, or Parker Kligerman may be a better way to put it. Parker Kligerman's 20 points to the good over Riley Herbst. And really, that's the only 2 guys, because Brandon Jones is not quite 90, but 88 points behind. Technically, with 2 races, he could point his way in, but he'd need a lot of help here. It's between Kligerman and Herbst if they're going to point their way in, and with 2 races to go, somebody is going to have to point their way in. Bad time for the 98 team to go cold.
Very.
We'll see whether or not they can get back to things once we get back to oval track racing next weekend. Meantime, hey, what else is going on? Tonight, Cup Series, Daytona, final race of their regular season. Coke Zero Sugar 400 airing on NBC and MRN radio. Race start time 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central Time. Pre-race is earlier, but it varies depending on whether it's TV or radio, so we don't deal with that. We just deal with race time coverage start. We'll know the 16 that are vying for the title after tonight. Sunday, mostly, about open wheel racing. Formula One gets things running with the August break now finally done. They're taken to Zandvoort for the Heineken Dutch Grand Prix on the fast 14-turn, 2.64-mile-long track. That'll air on ESPN. Start time just before 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. They have started qualifying or are about to.
Q1 has just ended.
All right, let's get a quick update then.
Your bottom 5 out in Q1, you've got Esteban Ocon. This is 16 to 20.
Okay.
Oh, well, wait a minute. It's shifting.
Ah,
They're just finishing up.
all right.
Okay.
Let's let that finish then. I'll run through the rest of the schedule for tomorrow. Indycar will run their 5th and final oval track race of the year tomorrow. Bommarito Auto Group 500 at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway near St. Louis. That's on NBC and IMS Radio, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. Craftsman Truck Series has the final race of the weekend. Head to the Milwaukee Mile for the Clean Harbors 175. That's on Fox Sports 1 and MRN Radio, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central for a rare Sunday start for them. Camping World Drag Racing Series for the National Hot Rod Association. The only series that we cover that's still in season right now that happens to be off.
Yes. Okay. I think it has finally cycled through.
Okay.
Okay. About to go to break. Let me get this real quick. Your bottom 5 out from 16 to 20. Zhu Guanyu, Esteban Ocon, Kevin Magnussen, Valtteri Bottas, and Liam Lawson.
We'll tell you about that kid, Liam Lawson, coming up in Formula One news. You might remember during the tease, I talked about an injury in Formula One. Liam Lawson. We'll get back to it. When we come back, though, arguably the biggest story of the week hailed from NASCAR, specifically the Truck Series. It's something that guy right there talked about when it was found out that Legacy MC was going to be switching from Toyota or from Chevrolet to Toyota next year. There's an ancillary part of that. We'll deal with it all next as we roll on with CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. 2 tires only. And back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. Appreciate you joining us. Arguably the biggest story of the week, hailing from the Craftsman Truck Series. So that's where we're going to lead off. GMS Racing. They made the announcement at the end of this year. They're closing down operations. This is the same team that ended up grabbing a Cup Series team with a partnership with Richard Petty. They became known as Petty GMS Racing a couple of years ago. That's the team we now call Legacy MC. Well, Matt over there was thinking right after it was announced earlier this year that Legacy was going to be moving from Chevrolet to Toyota for 2024, that they may shut down the Truck Series operations. I kind of agreed with him. I saw where he was coming from, but I thought that there might be a chance they might take the truck team and move them to Toyota as well. Well, the announcement on Wednesday upended that idea. The Truck Series operation will be no more. The announcement from the team owner, Maury Gallagher, said in part, quote, during the past 9 years, GMS Racing has become one of the top teams in truck and ARCA. I guess they're shutting down the ARCA arm of that as well. The people that made this happen have been the hardworking men and women at GMS Racing and GMS Fabrication. Every employee, new and old at GMS, has always strived to be the very best. Without their effort and dedication, we would never have been able to win 2 truck championships, 3 ARCA championships, and claim 68 wins. The official statement from the team simply stated, quote, this morning, GMS Racing officials announced it would cease operations at the conclusion of the 2023 race season. GMS Fabrication, a separate entity which has operated alongside the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race team, will also close its doors following the championship race at Phoenix Raceway. So here's the short term. Several people are out of work, not the least of which 3 team drivers who right now don't have rides for 2024. The most notable or successful of them, Fairhope, Alabama's Grant Enfinger, the driver of the 23. But there's also Rajah Caruth, driver of the 24, and the driver of the number 43 truck, Daniel Dye. Now, we could talk about GMS Fabrication. We could talk about all the employees that work at GMS Racing as a whole. And yeah, we understand that. Considering how successful GMS Racing has been, as they mentioned, over 9 years, 5 titles, 2 in the trucks, 3 in ARCA, 68 race wins altogether, one would think that they won't be unemployed for very long.
Well, one driver already has signed a deal for 2024, that being Daniel Dye.
Okay.
He released that on his social media the same day that announcement was made. First off, I knew this was coming.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, you kind of predicted it.
I knew this was coming due to some, let's just say, some verbiage that was overheard when I was on the field trip.
If you're an ex-military person, call it scuttlebutt.
Yeah, we're going to call the CRN field trip I had. Secondly, I think it's a massive, massive, massive mistake closing down the fabrication side, because so many teams use GMF Fabrication to build their trucks.
True. Yeah, they could have continued quite profitably in that particular role.
Very profitably. Thirdly, one of the things that was brought to my attention, let's use it that way, the reason they didn't take the trucks over to Toyota, because Tricon didn't want another Toyota team competing with them, which is absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
It's absolutely stupid. And to end my commentary on this, 4. And I'm going to leave it at this right here and let the cards fall where they may.
Okay.
Don't be the least little bit surprised at what you may see in 24 that develops from this and it branches out.
Well, sure. I mean, think about it. You got several Chevrolet teams that are out there, be they single or multiple truck operations. It doesn't really matter. So here's an opportunity for them to go in and grab a lot of equipment. Number one. Number 2, yeah, Daniel Dye is already signed. Who did he sign with, by the way?
He didn't say.
Oh, okay. So he just mentions he's signed. He has not said who yet. I'm sure they got to deal with details, and we'll get back to another one of those in a minute. But Rajah Caruth, who's a fairly promising young kid from the Drive for Diversity program.
He's going up.
Okay.
He's going to go up.
But still, I mean, right now, technically he's a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
And you got a very successful guy from our home state. We broadcast from Alabama, in case you're fairly new to the show. From down in Fairhope, a guy who's got wins and battles for championships on a regular basis in the Truck Series, who is out there and available. Talking, of course, about Grant Enfinger. So you got personnel.
And he's got a sponsor.
Not the least of which drivers. A driver with a sponsorship available. All that equipment that's out there. And Maury Gallagher's just going to punt.
Yeah. So don't let some things surprise you if you see it in 24.
We'll keep you updated on it as the news comes out, of course. The next big story of the week, arguably, came out of the Indycar series. I didn't see this one coming, I got to admit. 2 IndyCar teams have forged a technical alliance that'll bring together Team Penske and A.J. Foyt Racing. And I love A.J. Foyt. A.J. Foyt is all-time my favorite IndyCar driver, but his team has certainly been on the rocks lately. This should certainly help the Foyt operation. Penske's been a front-running, if not title-winning organization for a long time now. Let's just put it that way. First things being shared, dampers that Team Penske's been using. They're already going to provide them for the final 3 races of the season beginning this weekend to A.J. Foyt Racing. Then expect the cooperative effort to get a bit more in-depth as they go into the off-season and as 2024 approaches. Likely this is going to include Team Penske putting some younger crew and engineering staff within the Foyt organization. Number 1, to help them gain experience, but number 2, to help out Foyt in the way that Team Penske does things. In addition, the Foyt operation likely will be a place where Penske's Indy NXT drivers or Indy Next drivers are going to have a chance to get their feet wet in IndyCar competition. That's not necessarily the worst thing in the world either.
No, not bad at all.
I mean, we've seen Foyt go after some younger drivers, sometimes with success, but unfortunately, for the most part, it seems that they swing and they miss with this young driver or young drivers, and that's it. So I think this is it's a huge step, really, for the Foyt racing operation. And this does help Team Penske because what this does is effectively, if you want to put it into NASCAR terms, now Team Penske has their Wood brothers, except in the IndyCar side.
Mm-hmm. This will end up being the pickup that A.J. Foyt needs.
Absolutely.
And by a long shot.
Oh, yeah. Team Penske president Tim Cindric talked to Racer.com about it, said, quote, "We had seen those relationships happen in IndyCar, whether it was Shank and Andretti," talking about Meyer Shank Racing and Andretti Autosport, or we obviously have our relationship similar to that concept in NASCAR with Wood Brothers, like I just said. It was the idea of former Foyt executive Scott Harner last year to do this, but when he left and took a position with Andretti Autosport, the idea got tabled, really, until Larry Foyt got to talking with Cindric recently, and the two sides started working out all the details. So, yeah, it is effective as of this weekend, but really all the tentacles aren't going to be in place until we get into 2024.
Right.
Well, Andretti Autosport could not be left out in the cold, so they stepped up and made some news and a move for the 2024 season. They've signed ex-Formula One driver Marcus Ericsson away from Chip Ganassi Racing. He'll stay with Chip Ganassi Racing for the final 3 races of the year and then become an Andretti Autosport driver where he is set to team with Kyle Kirkwood and Colton Herta next year. Wait. That means 3 cars. They've only been running 3 full-time cars this year. What about Romain Grosjean?
They have 4. They have 4 this year.
Well, thing about it is, they aren't talking about Romain Grosjean.
That's where I started scratching my scalp area, going like, huh?
Yeah. We got rumors there, by the way, that have David Malukas moving over from Dale Coyne Racing over to Andretti as well. Again, can't tell the players without a scorecard. Welcome to silly season, right? Well, let's get to what we know. Ericsson's got 4 wins since he joined IndyCar and Ganassi, but he had the ride really kind of due to bringing his own sponsor. He and Ganassi couldn't agree on finding him a new sponsor, one that the driver didn't have to provide. Sponsorship for his ride hasn't been disclosed, nor what number he's going to drive for Andretti, but Andretti doesn't have any problem going out and finding sponsors, especially for a guy who's now got a couple of wins, including a fairly notable one. and Indy 500? Ring a bell?
Quite a bit.
So with Ericsson signing, Malukas in the rumor mill, what about that other F1 refugee, the former Haas F1 driver Romain Grosjean? Grosjean has shown speed in his time in the series. He's run up front, but he remains winless. Andretti says he's waiting to see what may come out of the last 3 races of the year. So, yeah, he could still remain at Andretti. But here's the thing. Now that Ericsson's out of Chip Ganassi's looking at Romain Grosjean and thinking, maybe.
I don't necessarily think that would be a bad move.
I don't either.
But
and to bring in David Malukas, who, that Dale Coyne Racing ride, which has been kind of a cooperative effort to become full-time at Andretti, not the worst move that Andretti could make either.
Oh, no, not at all.
I'm not certain which would be the better move, though, going with Malukas or keeping Grosjean. That's a difficult call.
Yeah, that is a very difficult call.
I mean, you're going on a guy who can produce really good results, even though, yes, he hasn't won, knows how to race these cars, has done very, very well in it, talking about Romain Grosjean.
Yeah.
Or you go with a guy who's shown a lot of promise but has not delivered yet in David Malukas.
If it's me, I'm going Grosjean.
You're going to go with the proven?
I'm going to go with the proven.
Okay.
But we know Michael Andretti's track record. He will load 10 haulers up and bring 10 cars to the track and try to take half the field.
Sure.
We know that'll happen.
Yeah, we know that.
I'll even go as far as to say 5 cars are not out of the question.
True, if he could find the sponsorship for it. And knowing Michael Andretti, he probably could.
He could. So that would have Kirkwood. Back up. Herta in the 26. Kirkwood in the 27.
Yeah.
Leave Grosjean in the 28.
Okay.
All right. If you bring Malukas over, put Malukas in the 29.
Sure.
Put Ericsson in the 25.
Okay. Well,
there's
your blueprint, Michael.
Worth a shot. If you follow that blueprint, I will go to Indiana and work for your team.
And give him credit. Just saying. Meyer Shank Racing has decided to stick with 2022 Indy Next champion Linus Lundqvist for at least another week as he continues to fill in for the sideline Simon Pagenaud. Pagenaud, as you remember, has been out since that multiple rollover crash that he suffered at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, still undergoing concussion protocol and other situations. Still trying to make his way back. This will be Lundqvist's 3rd straight race in that car. It'll be the youngster's first oval track start at the top level of the IndyCar ladder as well, though. MSR does seem happy with his performance so far. Qualified 11th at the Music City Grand Prix in Nashville. Backed that up with a 12th place finish on the Indy Road Course a couple of weeks ago. Now we get to see how good you are on an oval, kid. Good luck. Hope it works out for you. Augustin Canapino working toward a potential IndyCar Rookie of the Year honor this year, but with a week off, he decided to go travel to Argentina. Actually got into a race, a Turismo Carretera Touring Series event in Buenos Aires. If I got it wrong, I apologize. He was welcomed back with a deafening round of applause and cheering from the crowd that was on hand. He finished the race 12th, but took the time to address the crowd after the race, said, quote, "Thanks everyone for the love." Obviously, he's back in the U.S. for the race at IndyCar at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway this weekend. Speaking of this weekend, going to be a first for IndyCar. They're bringing something to an oval track that they have only previously brought to road and street course races. What they call the alternate or red striped sidewall tire, the soft compound tire. Soft compound tires for race fans means high speeds and low lap times, but it comes at the price of quicker tire wear, meaning more pit stops. This weekend is the first time that IndyCar will bring the alternate tire to race on an oval track. They've tested it, but they've never raced it until this weekend. Each team gets 2 sets of the black sidewall primary tires and 2 sets of the red sidewall alternate tires, 1 each for practice and the race itself. Anytime 2 or more compounds are approved for a particular race, they both must be used, and by IndyCar rules, they must run at least 2 laps. they do not state that those laps have to be under green. They could be under yellow. Just saying. Qualifying, however, will be on the black sidewall tires, like I said, called primaries. But at some point in time tomorrow, for the first time ever, IndyCar will use the soft compound tires. Now, this isn't a ridiculously high-banked track, Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway.
No, flat.
I don't know as we're really going to note that much difference other than the potential, again, for some faster lap times, just because, again, softer compound tires give you a bit better traction, a little bit better speed, but they wear quicker.
A lot better grip for sure. So I think it's doing a disservice by not letting them run them in qualifying. But we'll see, though.
Yeah, why only practice and not qualifying? I don't know. Maybe it was a cost-saving measure and just a test to see how they would do longer term other than just a couple of laps for qualifying.
Yeah.
That's all I can think of.
Yeah.
We'll talk about something else when it comes to IndyCar when we come back. They're trying to figure out something. Team Penske's influence and their roots within the NASCAR system are becoming obvious. We'll fill you in on the details next.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Yeah, let's get back into this here. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers along with you, and a couple of other things IndyCar-wise. Something came up for IndyCar, and it's something that Team Penske happens to be pretty familiar with from their time in NASCAR, a charter system. Well, Penske Entertainment, owners of the IndyCar series, met with the team owners at the recent NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader weekend, where several topics were discussed, including expansion of what they called the Leaders Circle program and making it something of a charter system similar to NASCAR, or maybe even more like what the old kart series used when kart and IRL were competing series. Currently, there's no buy-in to race an IndyCar. If you can get a car, if Matt and John and I could put together a CRN team and get a driver, oh, I'm sorry, we got Matt.
Have helmet, will travel.
We could, as long as we got the tires and the engine, put the car out there at this weekend's race. No buy-in. As opposed to Formula One.
Dear Chevrolet.
Or as opposed to even NASCAR to some extent. In NASCAR, to assure entry, you have to pay for a charter, or you hope you qualify on speed. No guarantee, right? Formula One, well, just ask Andretti Autosport about trying to get into that series. So the Leaders Circle was one way to help teams, where the top 22 finishers became part of a guaranteed prize money package worth almost $1 million per team, and all that you had to do in exchange was commit to racing the full season. But that's not transferable, like a, say, NASCAR charter. I own a NASCAR charter. Matt wants it. If he can pony up enough money, I'm willing to sell it to him. Well, that ain't the case here. You finish outside the top 22, you're outside the leader circle. That's it. See ya. Bye-bye. And now with 27 full-time cars, and maybe more as we get ready to go into 2024 and beyond, something to be thinking about, right? Well, since he bought the series in early 2020, Roger Penske said he wants something similar to what NASCAR has, allowing the team owners to have a little bit more equity in the series with their cars, be they a single car team or have 4 or even 5 cars. No specific plan was presented, but some ideas were said to have been exchanged. One thing that does seem apparent is that the number probably going to remain at 22, even though next season we could have as many as 28 or 29 full-time entries, depending on who does what. Because we're hearing about a couple of teams that are thinking about going from single-car operation to 2 full-time cars next year. I guess we'll find out. Nothing has been set in stone at this point in time. Everybody has to agree to it anyway. Couple of pictures here, unfortunately dealing with some sad news from the world of IndyCar. Word that 1968 Indy 500 Rookie of the Year Bill Vukovich II passed away last Sunday. He was the son of 2-time Indy 500 winner Bill Vukovich and the father of Bill III, who himself claimed Indy 500 Rookie of the Year status 20 years after his dad did. Got a picture of him in his 1970 Indy 500 ride on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of his website. Bill II was born in California, made a dozen starts in the world's most famous race from 1968 to 1980, claiming 6 top 10 finishes, best of which a runner-up finish in 1973 in a rain-shortened event. Overall, he was active in IndyCar from 1965 to 1982. Got 158 race starts, 85 top 10s in that time, 50+% top 10 finishes. Not a bad record.
Not at all.
Unfortunately, only 1 win. That came at Michigan in 1973. The year before that, 1972, was his best points finish, second behind Joe Leonard. Joe Leonard that year claimed Bill claimed 5 top 5 results, but Joe Leonard could not be overcome. Joe Leonard posted 3 straight wins and 8 top 5 finishes in 10 races that year. That's pretty much going to get you a points win. Bill II is a member of the National Midget Racing Hall of Fame, inducted in 1998, joined his father there. All 3 of the Bills are also in the Fresno Athletic Hall of Fame, honored by their hometown. He also saw both his father and his son pass away in racing wrecks. Bill passed away due to natural causes, from what we can tell, at his home in Riverside, California last Sunday. William John Vukovich II, 79 years old. Another passing happened on Monday. 1965 Indy 500 starter Mickey Rupp passing away. Rupp had a very short IndyCar career. He only actually got 5 starts from 1964 and 1965, but he claimed top 10 finishes in 3 of them, including a 6th-place result in the Indy 500 that year. Notice that I didn't say that he claimed Rookie of the Year. Most of the time, a 6th-place finish in an Indy 500 will get you Rookie of the Year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 1965 was a fairly interesting year for rookies. There were 8 of them, including fellow race rookies Mario Andretti and Gordon Johncock. Mm-hmm. You know, 2 future Indy 500 winners. They placed third and fifth, obviously. Andretti won Rookie of the Year title that year. You can see Rupp in one of his IndyCar rides on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of Pinterest. Again, 8 rookies in the race that year. Mario Andretti, Gordon Johncock, Mickey Rupp. How about these 3? Al Unser, Joe Leonard, also in there. Yeah, that's a stout crowd, boys and girls.
Very.
Rupp began racing by building karts out of kits in his basement in the 1950s and then started looking at them and said, I can do better. Started building karts that he designed himself by improving upon the braking system and bringing in 4-wheel independent suspension. Made them really hot sellers and put Rupp manufacturing on the map. That ultimately ended his own personal racing career and started manufacturing. Not only was he building karts, he ultimately built mini bikes, snowmobiles, and, well, a lot more outdoor stuff. He would go on and sell Rupp Industries in the late 1970s and then began designing watercraft and equipment for sport fishermen under the name Rupp Marine. It still actually is in existence. It produces outrigger systems and other sport fishing hardware out of the company's headquarters in Stuart, Florida. It is still run by the family, his son specifically. He turned it over to his son, moved back to his hometown of Mansfield, Ohio, where he lived out his days with his wife, Jeannie. And as we heard last, he and his wife had 3 puppies as well. Passed away on Monday. Mickey Rupp, 87 years old. Sorry to hear about that. We'll get to a couple of other pictures here in just a moment. First things first, Q2, I do believe, done in Zandvoort.
Yes, it is, and Q3 is now rolling.
Okay.
Your final 10 to make Q3 was in no specific order because the lineup's jumbled up now.
Sure.
George Russell, Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, Albon, Alonso, Leclerc, Perez, Sainz, Norris, and Logan Sargent. Anyone?
Who had both Williams making Q3?
Yeah, and
Not this guy.
and knocking out Lewis Hamilton. We have some going to soft tires over the intermediates because Zandvoort is wet still, but some of them's trying the softs.
Yeah, there's a nice little dry lane there, so if you can avoid the areas of the track that still have some standing water on it, you'd be all right.
Yep.
Well, and speaking of Zandvoort, we got a picture for you here during practice session number 2 that happened on Friday, yesterday, as we air live. Oscar Piastri got out of control heading into a high-banked corner, ended up nosing into the tire barrier, got stuck there with some front-end damage. Well, the AlphaTauri of Daniel Ricciardo, pictured, was just beginning his speed run when he came up on the same corner and could not slow his ride down, ended up crashing into the tire barrier himself. You can see him getting out of the crash car on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of Yahoo Sports. Note that he is already favoring his left arm and hand. Well, Piastri was uninjured, but Ricciardo, as we found out later, suffered a broken hand, which he knew pretty much as soon as it happened. When the car stopped, Ricciardo came over the team radio complaining about his hand using, well, words we can't say on the air here. He was helped out of the car and was holding his left hand and was taken to a local hospital where the break was confirmed. His seat will be filled by the Red Bull Junior driver who we talked about, who is, well, last on the qualifying charts, Liam Lawson, 21-year-old, who got one practice session early this morning and qualifying in order to get comfortable. No pressure. I think at this point in time, all Red Bull / AlphaTauri would like to see out of Liam Lawson is, don't crack up the car, kid. Bring the car home in one piece. Prove that you can do that.
Yeah, how about you go to Q2, you're in Q3, you go to P2, and with 8 minutes and 13 seconds left, and then you wad your car up. Good job, Logan Sargent.
Oops.
Track is now red.
We'll keep you updated on that. More on Lawson. He's a New Zealand native who finished third in the final F2 points last year. Red Bull moved him to Super Formula in Japan for this year. The number on Ricciardo's car will take on Lawson's number 40. How long Ricciardo's out, we don't know. Probably not going to race next weekend at the Italian Grand Prix. Depending on the brace and depending on how bad it is, I still kind of doubt it, though. So I would think Ricciardo's out for next weekend in the Italian Grand Prix, but then there's a week off before they go to Singapore. Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, yeah. There's no telling.
Yeah. Haas F1. Kevin Magnussen didn't make it out of Q1. Nico Hülkenberg didn't make it out of Q2. Haas F1's team principal Gunther Steiner wrapping up the August break in Formula One, saying that he would be happy to continue into 2023 with his two drivers, Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hülkenberg, but added he would like to see a little bit more from Magnussen, who's been with the team a little bit longer. Magnussen scored 25 championship points for the team last year, including grabbing a top 5 and the organization's first ever pole position in the series. But this year, most of the team's points, 9 of the 11, have been scored by the new for 2023 driver Nico Hülkenberg. Steiner said early this week of Magnussen, quote, "We need to look at the numbers, and most of the time in qualifying, Kevin was behind Nico. And not by half a tenth, by more than 2 or 3 tenths, which obviously puts Kevin under a lot of pressure. I think the biggest pressure is coming from himself, because when you're a driver and you're getting beaten by your teammate, that's never nice. So I think we need to see how we can get out of this to catch up, because he should be able to do it, and already having a teammate like Nico should help get there." So early in the week, we were all kind of wondering, wow, is the seat under Kevin Magnussen that hot?
I don't know.
Apparently not. Apparently, Steiner said Magnussen has done enough and got a 1-year extension to his deal along with Hülkenberg. So Hülkenberg and Magnussen will remain through 2024. Hülkenberg returned to Haas in 2023, has been the primary points getter, as I said, made it to Q3 6 times this year, has the team's best finish to date, 7th place at the Australian Grand Prix. As for Magnussen, he has claimed 2 10th place finishes. Those were in Saudi Arabia and Miami. But the pair are veterans. They've got 346 starts between them going into this weekend. Haas is hoping that they're going to be able to help the team be stable on the driver's side as they continue to work on the cars to try to move back up into their highest final Constructors' Cup position. Got to go way back to 2018 when they finished 5th in the Constructors' Cup. Right now, they're in 8th. The exact same place they ended the 2022 season in, but they had a lot more points at the end of last year than they've got this year right now. Good luck. Steiner said of having the duo back for next year, quote, "Kevin and Nico gelled well right from the get-go together. They both scored points, and in particular, Nico has excelled in qualifying. Kevin and Nico are clearly enjoying their time in the sport. Both have mature heads on their shoulders, and they understand what we're asking of them. In turn, now it's time for us as a team to look ahead to 2024 and ensure we have a car that's capable of scoring points consistently." And that's kind of where this takes that turn, because we have seen speed out of the Haas F1 twins, mostly in qualifying. As we've noted, Nico has made the final final round of qualifying, Q3, no less than 6 times. But it seems like pretty much every time he immediately starts dropping like a rock once the green flag or the lights turn green or whatever it is that you want to call. When the race begins, he immediately starts dropping. And they've had some technical problems where both of them have finished well back, like 18th and 19th or 19th and 20th. I get that. But neither of the drivers, and there have been a couple of occasions where both of them have actually qualified inside the top 10. They made it both, Magnussen and Hülkenberg, to Q3. And neither of them finish inside the top 10. How in the world does that happen? They've got a problem with the car. Steiner knows it. Hülkenberg knows it. Magnussen knows it. Anybody that's even a casual racing fan, you don't have to be an ardent fan of Formula One to know it, there's a problem with the car. And we pretty much know what that is. It's what they call tire degradation. The tire is wearing out quicker on the Haas F1 twins than it is on any of the other 9 teams' cars. Why? They don't know. How they don't know, I'm not really sure. But at this point in time, Haas F1 is in a situation not terrifically unlike what Mercedes was in last year. Last year, it seems like all we could talk about when it came to Mercedes is how in the world can they not figure out what the porpoising issue is? How in the world is that car just continuously bouncing down the road looking like this all the time? Sorry for those of you that are listening on the radio. You didn't see what I was doing with my hand, but those who were on CRN Live did see it. But we were talking constantly about the Mercedes issue with porpoising and how they could not figure it out.
Yeah.
Haas F1 has a situation where they have too much downforce or not enough downforce. I'm not sure which one it is, but either way, it is causing a situation where the Haas F1 twins are running through their tires and they're degrading them faster than all other 9 teams out there, all other 18 cars. And Haas F1 hasn't figured that out yet.
Yeah. It kills me with all of the technology that's in F1 that people can't figure out these little things. All the money that goes into these cars, they can't figure out the little things. And the little things are what's making them look like junk.
Dirt.
And that's a nice way of saying it. I was thinking of another phrase, but this is
Sure.
FM radio.
Yeah.
So
We're family time.
yeah.
I got you. And I follow you. I do. I wish we had an answer. We don't, obviously. But with the amount of people that are working now for Haas F1 at their offices, be it in Concord, North Carolina, right next to Stewart Haas Racing, we've seen the building, we know that it's there. Whether it's in England, that the main race shop is based out of, or be it in Maranello, right basically across the street from their brethren over at Ferrari. How in the world have they not been able to grab the brain trust together and figure this out?
It's crazy.
Maybe call up your buddies over there at Ferrari and see if they got any thoughts. Anything at this point in time would help. We got one bit of news from the Superstar Racing Experience when we come back, and then we'll deal with all the other stuff. Hour number 2 of CRN is up next. Hang on for us, would you?
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
And we're down one person here on the show as Matt has prior things to do for our flagship station. So we will soldier on between myself and producer John Myers.
He got drafted.
Yeah, he did. Certainly wasn't one of those things that he was expecting. Let's just put it that way.
A blindsided draft.
Yes, very much so. As we get into hour number 2 here, let's start off with talking about the Superstar Racing Experience. Not a whole lot of news. Their Season 3 just ended. Ryan Newman is your Season 3 champion. Marco Andretti, Season 2 champion. Tony Stewart grabbed the inaugural season championship. We know all that. What we know now is that next year, their Thursday Night Thunder deal with ESPN will continue. And we also know this. They've set aside the 6 dates that they're going to go racing on. Slightly earlier, by a week or 2, tops, than what they did this year. Next year, their year will begin on July the 11th. They'll race again on the 18th and the 25th, August 1st, August 8th. Happy birthday, Eve, to me. And August the 15th. Here's what we don't know. We don't know who the drivers are. 12, maybe 13. 12, like this year, certainly. Like I said, maybe 13. We only know one of the tracks. The Thunder Road Speed Bowl in Bear, Vermont. You might remember Thunder Road Speed Bowl was supposed to be race number 2 on the docket for them. This year just ended.
Mm-hmm.
But because there was such significant rainfall and historic flooding in Bear, Vermont, including at the track, it became untenable for them, so they ran the first 2 races at Stafford Speedway in Connecticut and promised that they would put Bear, Vermont on the docket in one of the 6 races for 2024. So that's all we know. We know the 6 dates from July 11th to August 15th every Thursday in that area. All of them will be on ESPN if they do the exact same thing that they did this year, which I'm sure they will. 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central start time, and we know one of the 6 tracks. Thunder Road Speed Bowl, Bear, Vermont.
You think it's too late for them to add races?
Probably for 2024. But as far as 2025 and beyond, Tony Stewart, we talked about this on the show last week, you
Yes,
might
we
remember, has said he would love to go out 8, maybe 10 races, probably continue to do them all in a row. Not take a week off, in other words. He says his biggest problem right now, personnel. That's what he's working with.
That's everybody's problem.
It really is. Welcome to post-COVID and people not wanting to work.
Ding, ding.
So, hey, Tony, just saying there are people that are available here and there. Just saying.
Here and there. Gotta love it.
So, yeah, that's the update on the Superstar Racing Experience. Talking a little bit about what's going on in the Cup Series here, as 15 of your 16 Cup Series playoff spots are spoken for. We talked about this last hour, but in case you're just now joining us, where you been? After Watkins Glen, Kevin Harvick and Brad Keselowski are in on points locked. Tonight is the final race of the 2023 regular season. Keselowski started last week, 24th, improved his finish to 16th, while Harvick, leading Keselowski in points going into the race, now trails him in the aftermath, finished a middling 21st, but he's optimistic heading into the playoffs. Harvick said this week, quote, "I wish we could have won a race before now, but we've had our opportunities to win a few. We struggled on the road courses, but other than that, it's been okay. We just got to get our cars running better to do anything right." So tonight, as we air live, we're going to find out who gets the final playoff slot heading into the wild card known as Daytona. It is interesting to note that he talked about the Stewart-Haas racing cars, and all 4 Stewart-Haas racing cars will start inside the top 10, including Chase Briscoe in the 14 and the 10 of Eric Almirola locking out the front row. Of course, now you got to keep that. That's a different story. The guy who's sitting on the bubble is Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace is 32 points to the good, but it's Daytona. So there's the drama, if you will. After last weekend, you may or may not have noted something over the last couple of weeks of racing. Remember, it's been 2 road courses in a row. Watkins Glen, and before that it was the Indianapolis, where they didn't run on the Brickyard. Remember, they ran on the road course. we've had a lack of caution flags. The road courses this year, NASCAR, regardless of which of the top 3 series it is, Truck Series, Xfinity, Cup, they go on a road course. Technically, you have stages where they award bonus points, but they do not have stage breaks. In other words, they don't throw the caution/checkered flag. You just keep racing, and you get the points. Okay. Well, neither race stopped for stage breaks, Indianapolis or Watkins Glen. Only one caution flag was shown at Watkins Glen, and that was because Chase Elliott ran out of gas and stopped in the bus stop area. The week before, again, only one caution flag. When was the last time a Cup Series had one or less cautions back-to-back races? You got to go all the way back to 1978.
I was going to say, I don't remember.
You got to go back to the now defunct Riverside Road Course, and then somehow they had one or less caution. Actually, it was only one at Michigan. Michigan's a high-speed track, 2-mile D-shaped oval. Without Elliott running out of gas, Watkins Glen might have actually gone caution-free. When was the last time that happened? Got to go back to 2002 for that one. This week, Daytona. Stage breaks are back in, so we'll have at least 2.
That's some clean racing right there.
It really is. Daytona ain't going to be that clean. Sorry. I just don't see it. Fox Sports reporter Bob Pockris noted a rule change for the Cup Series this weekend. Many are saying it's about time. The thing about it is, it's really not a change. It's more of a tweak, if you will. Current rule now officially reads that any damaged car must keep the door foam that sits between the roll cage and the sheet metal, quote, adequately retained by the original door panel. In other words, it cannot be held on by speed tape. And I would presume that if NASCAR deems that you don't have the door foam in there held sufficiently enough by the original door panel, that they'll park you. And it is a safety deal. That door foam is meant to help cushion some of an impact of any particular crash. So I understand where they're coming from with that. And I don't really think that that's a problem. And pretty much to a driver, they have all said that they're in favor of it. So as long as they're in favor of it, I'm good. Richard Childress Racing has signed a multi-year deal with a company you can't have missed if you've watched any television at all, considering all the ads this law firm runs, to the point of annoyance. Sorry, but it's true. By now, you know about the law firm Morgan & Morgan. Now, they've actually sponsored rides in NASCAR over the past couple of years, but they've got a new deal where they're joining Richard Childress Racing with drivers Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch, and they're going to be primary on several races each year for both of the drivers. You can see the look right now on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of Richard Childress Racing. The deal begins as they're going to be primary on Austin Dillon's car, not this weekend, next weekend, Labor Day weekend at Darlington. Kyle Busch will run those same colors the first time at his home track, Las Vegas, in mid-October. Details on the number of races that Morgan & Morgan will be primary sponsor for next year and beyond was not announced. Neither was how many years that the deal goes for, but got to admit, pretty decent-looking cars if you're into Yellow Jackets.
I was going to say, it looks like a Yellow Jacket.
So, yeah. So, hey. Regardless of what you might think about, and anybody who spends any time in this state knows what I'm talking about, lawyer ads or lawyer billboards, this continues to go what I've been saying here now for a long time. A couple of years at least. We're starting to see, and it's not just in NASCAR, it's in Indycar, it's in Formula One, it's in the NHRA. We're seeing that resurgence in those who are interested in getting into the sport. And we could talk about the teams all day long. I mean, Live Fast and Legacy MC coming in and basically taking over Petty. And Trackhouse Racing coming in. And all of these other teams that are coming in and racing at least part-time in Xfinity and or trucks. You talk about IndyCar, where we're now going from a point where we were having trouble getting 25 full-time starters. to where next year we could see 28 or 29, depending on what a couple of teams like Meyer-Shank Racing ultimately decide to do. Formula One seems at odds with itself in some ways, but when the FIA puts out, hey, submit letters of interest, and we can tell you that we know of 3 or 4 organizations that are keenly interested in starting their own F1 operation. I mean, to the tune of sinking $1 billion or more in just to get started. And you've got 4, at least, operations that put in a letter of interest to the FIA. And you look at what's going on in the NHRA. And those are just big-time series around the world. Formula E has 11 full-time teams right now. Extreme E has begun. And there are many, many others. IMSA, World Endurance Challenge, World Rallycross, so on and so forth. The interest is there in racing. And the sponsorships are there as well, if you go and you find them. And Richard Childress has done a nice job in grabbing one. Good for them. One of those other teams when it comes to coming in recently in NASCAR was Live Fast Motorsports. And a few years ago, a promising young racing career got sidelined when Matt Tifft had to quit racing when he had an epileptic seizure just before a practice session in Martinsville. If there was a blessing in disguise, it was the fact that he had it before he got in the car. Tifft wasn't willing to give up on racing. He turned from driver to team owner, starting up Live Fast Motorsports with BJ McLeod. And he's made progress as well, medically. After initial treatments and going 6 months without a seizure, he was able to return to driving a passenger car. Last weekend, he got behind the wheel of a race car again. He went to Wisconsin. Chi-Town Mark, who's checking us out on CRN Live on YouTube, was in his backyard up in Wisconsin. He ran 3 late model races, split them between Marshfield Speedway and Golden Sands Speedway. He claimed the pole for one of the 2 Sunday races, claimed top 10 finishes in each of those 3 races, so he hasn't lost his touch. Tifft said afterwards, quote, I didn't know even 6 months ago if this was ever going to be a reality. The journey over the last 4 years has given me an opportunity to learn and understand who I am, what I'm capable of, and how I can come back stronger and better than ever. Having to go through the process of working with my doctors, healing both mentally and physically, has been a huge undertaking, but it's been a rewarding one. And I have no doubts that it has been. I've known a couple of people in my life who have unfortunately suffered from epileptic seizures. I know how debilitating it is. I know what it can do to a person, mentally and physically. I've seen the effects and the after effects of it both. It's not easy.
No.
The fact that he's been able to do what he's been able to do in the relatively short period of time that he's been able to do it shows, number one, the advances in medical technology, and number two, what you can do if you put your mind to it. So Matt Tifft, hats off to you, man. Congratulations. And hopefully that's not your last races. I don't think it will be, but I hope it's not. I hope you continue to race whatever and whenever you want, man. I think it's great. Last week on the show, we mentioned the possibility of NASCAR working with Netflix on a documentary series that would take viewers behind the scenes of the 2023 Cup Series playoffs. Somewhat similar, if you will, to 100 Days to Indy that showed up on CW Network earlier this year, or probably the most notable of all these behind-the-scenes documentaries, Netflix's F1 Drive to Survive, right? Monday of this week, the 2 sides officially announced that is going to happen. Now, the playoffs, again, begin next weekend at Darlington. Filming has already begun because the series likely will probably start with the race for the final spots and locking down the 16 drivers and detailing the 16 drivers that will battle for the 2023 Cup Championship. They don't have an official name, nor do they have a debut date. As far as the name, God only knows. The debut date, I can guess. It's expected to drop sometime shortly before the 2024 season gets rolling. Knowing Netflix, 10 races, 10 episodes? I could see that. And knowing Netflix, they drop all of their episodes at one time instead of debuting them week over week. So I would say, rough guess, 2 weeks before the Daytona 500. Like maybe right after the Busch Light Clash. Because if you think about it, Busch Light Clash happens the week before the Super Bowl. Then you get the Super Bowl, biggest sporting event in television, certainly in the United States, and one of the biggest around the world. And then the next weekend, Daytona 500. Busch Light Clash, perfect opportunity for NASCAR to tout, hey, guess what's debuting this week on Netflix? Makes sense, don't it? See, if this doesn't happen this way, I'm telling you, they need to hire us. We're good at this stuff.
Absolutely.
NASCAR Studios is in charge of the production. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is listed as one of the executive producers. It's the second partnership for NASCAR following the 2022 Race for the Championship production. That's also on Netflix. Go searching for it if you want to kind of get an idea of what this, I'm going to say, might look like. Because, honestly, I can think about what it might look like, but I don't know 100% for certain. Our thoughts and our prayers go out to former Cup Series team owner Tommy Baldwin. Baldwin has revealed he is undergoing cancer treatments. He's decided to shut down his NASCAR Wayland Modified Tour operation, likely is going to step away, at least on a temporary basis, from his other role as well, where he's competition director at Rick Ware Racing. That's a post he's held only since April of this year. Earlier this week, he posted on social media, quote, I post news that no one ever wants to hear. I have cancer. It is treatable. But this week of racing will be the last for a while for the Tommy Baldwin Racing team. Going to take a break and begin treatments to beat it into the ground. This is not a post for pity. I want to let the world know that if you don't feel right, go get checked out by a doctor now. Don't wait. If I can save one life by posting this, then I've done my job. Never be scared to go see the doctor. It could save your life. Take the message, share it with those you love before it's too late. I will beat this challenge like every other. The grind begins now. Thanks to everyone for the support. See you all at the track as soon as possible. As I noted, all of us here at CRN have our thoughts and our prayers going with him. We all know somebody, whether you are a member of the CRN crew, a member of the mothership affiliate, or whether you're a listener and or viewer. We all know somebody that's been affected by cancer.
Cancer sucks.
It does indeed. It's not something to be played with. 2 years ago, at this point in time, I was being shuttled around by my wife and the producer of this show, John Myers, because I had just undergone triple bypass surgery. Talk about not ignoring what your doctor and your body tells you. Tommy's right. If you don't feel right, go find out why. Get it checked out. It could save your life.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back.
Today's economy, small.
for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. Steve West, producer John Myers here. Matt Nicholson had to be called away for some very, very important duties for the flagship station that we are working with here at CRN. So, unfortunately, he is gone for the rest of the show, but we'll soldier on. Rumors, silly season, Cowlick Racing. They've lost Justin Haley for 2023, or 2024, I should say. We already know that. Justin Haley's gone. He's out the door. He'll finish out the year in the number 31 car. But what will Cowlick Racing do? Well, according to a report that just came out in USA Today, they figured it out. Cowlick Racing President Chris Rice talked on Sirius XM Satellite Radio on Thursday, discussed the number 31 car, said, quote, the number 31 car is pretty much done. It's in good shape. Like I said from the get-go, I think everybody's going to be pretty surprised with what we're doing with that. I'm excited. Matt Cowlick is excited. Everybody, that partners and everybody that is involved is excited about it. That's a relief. I've been able to sleep a little bit. He continued on to say, I think we're probably a couple of weeks away from whatever the partners want to talk about. I think what we want to do is get into the playoffs a little bit. Once that calmed down, I think that's when they'll want to do it. So announcement pending, but Cowlick Racing says they've settled on the driver for the 31 next year. Time will tell. Then we get into something that just kind of drives me crazy. There are reporters that we really trust here on this show. We gather news from a lot of different places, and some of it we hear ourselves. Rumors fly. Doesn't matter what the series is, doesn't matter what the division within said series is. Rumors fly hot and heavy all the time. I'm going to credit, or in this case discredit, specifically the athletics reporter Jordan Bianchi. He talked about Stewart-Haas Racing when he recently appeared on Sirius XM NASCAR radio, and specifically dealt in something that I hate to deal in, because if it goes wrong, you look like an idiot. And we've seen this before with other reporters for major sites. Racer.com, Motorsport.com, not really J-Ski. I can't call them out. They do a really, really good job of keeping their ear to the ground. From time to time, ESPN.com has gotten things badly wrong. Reporters on the specific series websites generally don't report on anything speculative. They generally wait until it actually happens. So if you go to NASCAR.com, NHRA.com, Formula1.com, Indycar.com, FIAFormulaE.com, or whatever other series it is that you want to talk about, generally the news that you're going to get is spot on. Maybe even to the point of being a little old. But I've said this before, and that's what those websites that I just mentioned are going by as well. I would rather be last on a story and be right than be first on a story and have to come back to you and go, by the way, my credibility is now shot. I was wrong. This would be huge news if it happened. Don't get me wrong. But when Jordan Bianchi comes up and says this, and I quote Jordan Bianchi, the speculation surrounding Stewart-Haas Racing is that one or maybe two of his charters could be in play. I can't confirm that. Okay, if you can't confirm it, why are you bringing it up? I get it. It would be huge. But if you can't confirm it and you're only hearing it scuttlebutt-wise, not really sure it's worth reporting. Bianchi continued, quote, I've talked to people who say those charters could be available. Somebody who wants them, if you got 40 to 50 million in your pocket and you want a charter, go ahead and have a conversation with Gene and Tony. We know Kevin Harvick's gone. Thing about it is we also know Josh Berry's taking that car over. Chase Briscoe's not going anywhere. Ryan Preece appears to not be going anywhere. That means 3 cars are spoken for. That leaves only one charter left. That would be the 10 car, assuming Eric Almirola does cruise on out the door. You can't sit there and tell me that Stewart-Haas Racing could not figure out a driver to go in that 10 car. And I don't mean any disrespect to Jordan Bianchi, but it's not like Tony Stewart or Gene Haas are hurting for money. They've got money. That's not the issue. Finding the guys to make the cars perform, that's a bit of an issue. Now, again, could it happen? Yeah, I suppose. Is it going to happen? Kind of seriously doubt it. Hate stories like that. To the Xfinity Series, where we lead off with something that happened yesterday, actually just before last night's Xfinity Series race. Several cars failing pre-race inspection, and I mean multiple times. The cars of Ryan Sieg, Jordan Anderson, Justin Allgaier, remember the winner, Jeb Burton, and Parker Retzlaff all failed at least 3 times. It meant that none of them could actually participate in qualifying. All of them had to start at the back of the starting field, and they had to serve a pass-through penalty after taking the green flag, and they lost pit selection for next weekend at Darlington. The car chiefs for all of those cars were also ejected for the weekend. Yeah, didn't really seem to bother Justin Allgaier, who won the race. Didn't bother Jeb Burton, who had a really good race. Jordan Anderson got taken out by a late race wreck. So was Ryan Sieg. Most of them had pretty good days. Again, overall, for starting at the back of the field. Welcome to Daytona. We mentioned last week that Richard Childress Racing and Austin Hill had signed extensions. They're going to work together again in a multi-year pact. That was last weekend at Watkins Glen. Since then, he revealed a little bit more about it. It's kind of something we surmised before everything was unveiled totally. Yes, it was a multiple-year deal. Richard Childress Racing probably would like to have him in a Cup car before much longer. Hill clarified it. Quote, next year, it will be Xfinity for sure. After that, it all depends. If things open up, let's say RCR is able to acquire a third charter or something like that, there's no telling what could happen. As of right now, it is structured for Xfinity for the next 2 years. But there again, things could change in the way the contract is structured and all. It could be obvious. It could obviously change. Maybe at the end of next year, we might have a better understanding of where we might be. Honestly, I love running Xfinity Series. I love racing cars. They're a lot of fun to drive, and I'm really happy with where I'm at right now, and I don't think I have to rush it to go to Cup. I'm having a lot of fun right now where I'm at. But, sooner or later, Austin, you're going to want to drive in the Cup Series. You probably actually want to right now, but you're holding up the team logo or the team way of looking at things. And I get that because you're happy right where you're at. Otherwise, you wouldn't have signed a multi-year deal, would you? But yeah, sooner or later, he's going to want to go to the Cup Series. Richard Childress wants it to be in an RCR car. I fully get it. A few years ago, people love to do polls, surveys, whatever it is that you want to call it. And they'll call around and they'll ask people what your, okay, for example, Wednesday was was the first Republican presidential hopeful debate. Not everybody was there. There were 8 people up on the stage. One was getting ready to be booked into jail in Atlanta. He wasn't there. And there were all the other guys who got less than 1% of the support. And afterward, polling operations call around and go, hey, who do you think won? Who do you think lost? Did it change your mind? Who are you pulling for? Blah, 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 right? These polls happen about anything. I didn't get a call on this one, but I remember it well because on my other job that I do Monday through Friday, we talked about the favorite convenience store chains around the country. And I think the aspect of it was, what do you think the cleanest ones are? I didn't realize how many convenience store chains nationwide there are. You realize there are more than 50? Cleanest one started in Texas and it started to expand throughout the rest of the Southeast. I give you Buc-ee's. That was rated as the cleanest convenience store in the country.
I can see that.
Also in the top 5, one that Chi-Town Mark is quite familiar with, being from the Midwest, Casey's General Store. It's a very Midwestern one. I'd love to get some in the Southeast. Been to a couple after visiting my friends in Iowa. A couple of years ago, I had my first chance to go into one when I got the chance to be a PA announcer at Richmond in the 2019 fall race. finally got the chance to go into a Wawa.
A woo?
Yeah, WAWA, Pennsylvania-based. Starting to expand out into the southeast. Locations already from all the way down into Florida, starting to expand into South Alabama, Tennessee, and then they'll start working westward, they say. They're planning on advertising themselves a little bit more, and their first step is with NASCAR. Last night, for example, the race was the Wawa 250 powered by Coca-Cola, and if you watched the race, you might have noted no less than 4 cars running with Wawa sponsorship, and they're from 4 different teams. We're about to show you a picture of those, courtesy of Wawa themselves on CRN Live on YouTube. The 4 cars were Natalie Decker with Emerling Gase Racing, Joe Graff Jr. at RSS Racing, Brett Moffitt with AM Racing, and J.J. Yaley's ride at SS Greenlight Racing. They're very colorful cars.
They are.
They stood out, too. Under the lights of Daytona, they all stood out, especially when the 53 got wrecked.
I'm curious as to how much they dropped on that advertisement right there. And it's worth it. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, sure.
But I bet you it was a pretty penny.
Yeah, between that and the title sponsorship, I'm going to say close to 7 figures for last night's race.
Would not doubt it.
By the way, for those of you that are curious, 7-Eleven.
That's funny.
Yeah, it rated in the 40ths.
Yeah.
The ones that I remember at the top were Buc-ee's number 1, Wawa I think was 2. Casey's General Store was in there from the Midwest. Another Mid-Atlantic operation, Sheetz, was in the top 10.
I've been there.
Circle K was in the top 20. That's pretty southeastern. I was trying to remember any others. But yeah, those are the ones that come to mind immediately. I've said this before. I'll say, QT was in there. Quick Trip was in the top 15, if not top 10. And we're just now starting to get those into Alabama. I say bring them all. I like the competition. Jordan Anderson Racing entering last night's race. First time ever, 3 cars. They've entered 2 cars into a race many, many occasions, but yeah, this is the first time they've had more than 2. One of the cars driven by Jeb Burton, pulling off a throwback scheme that just flat out mirrored his dad Ward's look from the early 2000s, including the car number 22. It was a great look. Parker Retzlaff drove the number 31, Jordan Anderson behind the wheel of the third team car driving the number 27. Congratulations to Jordan Anderson. I get the funny feeling big things are about to happen over there. As for Parker Kligerman, we've talked about him. He is now in on points with 2 more races left to go before the playoffs begin in the Xfinity Series. And Big Machine Racing likes what they've seen in him, so they've signed him to a 1-year extension to be full-time again in the 48 next year. So he'll take on that Camaro for a second season with that operation. Debuted with the team at last fall's race at Talladega, where he finished 6th. Since then, he's run 23 races for the team with a dozen top 10 finishes, 5 top 5s. And again, right now, he's in the Xfinity Series playoffs on points with a 20-point advantage over Riley Herbst. He finished 3rd last weekend at Watkins Glen, despite NASCAR admitting that they actually posted him and 2 other drivers wrong on the restart, which probably altered the outcome, certainly could have. Kligerman said, quote, "Although we haven't achieved our goal of winning races together, we've shared some unforgettable moments and continue to grow stronger each week. It's an incredible feeling knowing we still have a chance to fight for a championship this year, and we'll be doing just that in 2024. As to the mistake I just referred to, NASCAR admitted on Tuesday that they were wrong and placed the cars not only of Kligerman, but Josh Berry and Sammy Smith wrongly for that final restart at Watkins Glen. Kligerman was positioned 9th for the final restart. He said after the race, quote, "Why we restarted 9th, I have no idea. We got to talk to NASCAR." This was right after the race. "We got to talk to NASCAR. Somebody has got to explain this to me because I'm pretty sure the car that hit me in the wreck was Berry, who then starts 5th. I get sent to 9th. If we start 5th, we win this race. That's really disappointing." I don't necessarily say that he's wrong, but, hey, things happen, right? NASCAR released a statement to NBC Sports on Tuesday, said, quote, "Our goal is to get back to green as soon as possible. There are no timeouts in NASCAR, so we need to move quickly to give fans as many green flag laps as possible. In retrospect, we should have taken the extra step and potentially the extra lap to ensure the correct lineup. At the time of the caution, Berry's transponder did not hit the loop. He was part in the grass, part on the rumble strip, so it did not register a freeze position. The lineup reverts to the previous loop at the time of the caution. Where we erred was positioning Berry's car in its position at the time of the caution versus its position at the previous loop, which affected Kligerman and Smith's restarting position, and probably their finishing one too. They admitted it, but you can't go back in time and change it because none of us have a DeLorean. Joe Gibbs Racing has announced that they're going to put a part-time racer and part-time Fox Sports NASCAR announcer Trevor Bayne in for 3 races before the end of this year in the number 19. The first of those was actually last night at Daytona, and he was in the battle for the win until he got wrecked. He'll be back in the car at his home track, Bristol, mid-September, and then the very next weekend he'll be back in the car again at Texas. Notably, of course, he won the Daytona 500 in his debut season at 20, but was out of NASCAR for 6 years until Gibbs called him to drive for him last year. He's been good ever since.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
The biggest used car sales event in North Alabama is happening now at
flagship station. He'll be back next week. Ryan Sieg, meanwhile, filling out his 2023 sponsorship needs. We'll fix that. There you go. It'll be in post-production. Ryan Sieg has filled out his 2023 sponsorship needs, signing SciApps to sponsor the 39 car for the remainder of the year, beginning with last night's race in Daytona. It's a picture you're about to see on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of RSS Racing. The deal was actually announced on Wednesday. If you didn't get a good look at the car during last night's race, you'll be able to see it now. There you go. The company takes over for CMS Roofing, which was the primary sponsor of the car for the first 21 races of this year. They're going to be on there for the rest of the year. It's quite a colorful car. No doubt about that. It's not a bad-looking car. Another pretty good-looking car comes from SS Greenlight Racing. They announced the signing of Chad Fincham. He's going to run 3 races throughout the rest of the year for the team in the 08 Camaro before the season is done. Fincham's going to run the car seen here, courtesy of Chad Fincham, at Darlington next weekend, then again at Bristol, and then at Martinsville. Fincham's going to bring a longtime sponsor of his, the one that's sitting on the roof right there, Powerhouse Diesel, along with a new to him and a new to NASCAR sponsor, Mustang Week. That takes place in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, beginning the day after Labor Day and going on throughout the rest of the week. Might be an actually fun little trip, especially if you are a Ford Mustang fan. Producer John used to have one. He wasn't that big a fan of it. Just saying.
Oh, you choked me all up, bringing back bad memories.
Yeah, I know. Real quick before we get to other NASCAR news, let's go back to Formula One, where things have been locked down. We told you about those who were locked out before everything got rolling in Q3. Here's the starting lineup. Starting in 10th will be Logan Sargent, who cracked the car up during qualifying, so he will start 10th, and then we'll immediately have to move, I think, to the back of the pack because he's going to a different car. Or at least we'll have his car heavily modified. Charles Leclerc will start 9th, Oscar Piastri 8th, Sergio Perez will start 7th, Carlos Sainz 6th, your top 5, Fernando Alonso, Alexander Albon in a Williams, one of the best starting positions in a long time for a Williams, 4th. George Russell 3rd, Lando Norris 2nd, and to absolutely nobody's surprise, Max Verstappen claimed the pole by half a second over Lando Norris. Gap between 1st and 9th, 1.3 seconds. Okay. Anybody want to bet against Max Verstappen on the win? Not me. To NASCAR news itself, Ben Kennedy, who's a former racer himself turned NASCAR executive, has been working on developing something of a feeder system for young drivers to work their way up through the stock car ranks. He's kind of looking at things like the Road to Indy or Formula One's feeder ladder goes all the way down to, say, Formula 4, in addition to all the regional open wheel series that are around the world. Well, stock car racing has something similar, but it's just really, really loose. There's no cohesion to it, if you will, and Ben Kennedy would like to see that change. He recently talked to Sports Business Journal, said he has long felt like NASCAR needed a well-defined ladder system in order to secure young drivers and have them have a clearer path in order to work their way up into the upper levels of stock car racing. He added that the ladder system is really in its early stages and still has a ways to go. In other words, he needs to work with all the regional series. And he needs to work with all the local tracks, be they NASCAR sanctioned or not, and try and figure out how to make it work in a way that works not only for the interest of NASCAR and the teams, but for those tracks. Because the important part is you got to realize all of these drivers, every single driver that's in the Cup Series Xfinity or the Cup Series Trucks Xfinity, doesn't matter. ARCA Series, they all got their start racing at the local level on all the little local bull rings. The Talladega Short Tracks, the Slinger Speedways, and so on and so forth. That's where they all got their start. You can't overlook them. They are a vital and integral part in what racing has become and will become in the future in the United States of America. So please, do that and do it right, Ben, for the love. To the TV rights deal for Cup and Trucks, all that stuff is still on the air, up in the air. What we know is this. Beginning in 2025, the Xfinity Series is going to move all their races to the CW network, which means more work for John. So what about the trucks? Well, at this time, the rights belong to Fox Sports. Most of the races are on Fox Sports 1, but select races get to go on the main Fox network. Been no movement on that front right now. It's expected Fox Sports will retain the rights season long. But hey, nobody saw the CW network coming, did they? As for the Cup Series, we know this. Fox and NBC seem to be the front runners to retain the rights. That's what all the reports are saying anyway. To again split the Cup Series. But now we not only have one, but two new players. Amazon, we've already told you about. They're one of them. Talked about them here on the show. They're seeking a mid-season package of 6, 8, no more than 10. Probably no more than 8. 6 up to 8 races that would appear only on the streamer. They wouldn't be on Fox. They wouldn't be on NBC. You'd have to have Amazon Prime in order to do it. But Amazon now appears to have competition for that package in the form of Warner Brothers Discovery. Warner Brothers, via their cable network TNT, used to air NASCAR up until 2015. Now, apparently, they're back in with the interest and have jumped in on that mid-season package idea because they're trying to fill a gap in their own sports coverage between NBA seasons. Word is that they're also looking to add to the former HBO Max streaming service, which is now called Max, which might prompt viewers to have to pony up even more to watch. Whether NASCAR would go for that deal is not known at this time. If they're willing to put it on TNT, as opposed to making me pay for it, I might be interested.
I'm pulling for Amazon. I got Prime.
I've already got Prime myself. But again, I think the vast majority of people would go, hey, if it's going to be on TNT, I can deal with the cable aspect of it. I'm already dealing with that when it comes to Fox Sports 1 and USA. Time will tell. It doesn't really seem like NASCAR's really in any hurry to make this happen. I mean, the CW thing came out of left field. There's no doubt about it. I would have figured by now we would have already figured out who it was that we were going to be getting in the new package that begins in 2025. But again, NASCAR doesn't appear to be in any particular hurry to have it announced. We'll see. Meantime, NASCAR, which has recently embraced sports betting in states where it's legal, not here in Alabama, for example. They did that back in 2020. They became the first, actually, major North American sports league to team with the American Gaming Association in order to do so. And since then, betting on races went up over 51% just from 2021 to 2022.
Wow.
The first 2 full years of it. FanDuel, one of those sites that was involved, reported a 70% increase in NASCAR betting over that same time period. So it led to FanDuel to begin working with NASCAR, and the two sides have now struck a deal. It makes FanDuel a, quote, authorized gaming partner.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. What does that mean exactly, though? Well, it's a role that the company can use that allows the company, FanDuel, to use certain NASCAR branding in their advertising. They'll collaborate with NASCAR to create and promote different forms of experiences for the fans, including working up odds. Well, that's going to be weird. And implementing those on FanDuel's fantasy games as well. Clint Boyer, retired racer turned Fox Sports analyst, has also been hired as a, quote, FanDuel ambassador. Ooh. I don't know what that means, but I hope he got a raise. Hopefully, it will also help NASCAR fans begin to use the site. Again, if you're legal and in states where it is legal. Got to be 21 or older to gamble. And yeah, you got to be in the proper state. And I looked up the states. Alabama ain't one.
Nope.
Georgia ain't one. Tennessee is. Just saying. Oddly enough, Mississippi wasn't. And Mississippi has casino gambling.
But that's on the river.
Still. I don't know why they're not listed, but they're not.
Let's go to NHRA, shall we?
Shall we? I like your thinking. More drivers have clinched their spot in the countdown to the championship for the Camping World Drag Racing Series. In Top Fuel, we know that Antron Brown, Brittany Force, and Leah Pritchett are locked in. You know, Mrs. Tony Stewart. From Funny Car, we now have added Bob Tasca III, Chad Green, Alexis DeJoria, Tim Wilkerson, J.R. Todd, and John Force. Basically, all the top 8 in Funny Car standings are in. Pro Stock Car has added Matt Hartford, Derek Kramer, Troy Coughlin Jr., Erica Enders, and Greg Anderson to fight for the division title there. With those 14 adding themselves into the ranks, there are only 15 slots available amongst the 4 top divisions in the NHRA in order to battle out for the 2023 title. Top Fuel, Funny Car, Pro Stock Motorcycle. Pro Stock Motorcycle's been off the last couple of events. And right now, the only guy who's actually done it is the guy who's, number 1, a rookie this year, and number 2, has come in and torched everybody by claiming 6 event wins already. And that's Gage Herrera, who's got like a ridiculous 350-point-plus lead over second place. But all that stuff kind of gets reset once we get into the countdown for the championship. So anybody's game, right? I guess we'll see. Angel Sampey has joined up with Antron Brown's new AB Motorsports Accelerate program. This is a driver development program. Wait a minute. It's Angel Sampey. She's already developed, right? Wait a minute. There's more. Sampey, who is the 3-time Pro Stock Motorcycle champion, doesn't seem to be in need of a driver development program, but she's earned her top alcohol dragster license. That's important. She's set to run 3 races in the division through the remainder of this year and plans to compete in top alcohol full-time in 2024. She states her intent is to work her way back up into the Camping World Drag Racing Series, eventually to run Top Fuel as Brown's teammate, but says and admits that's probably a longer-term goal. It might not happen even as soon as 2025. Her first time racing in the division will be happening in October at the Texas NHRA Nationals. If Top Alcohol sounds familiar, that's the same division that Tony Stewart's running full-time in this year. That one. I don't know whether Tony has any plans on moving up into the Camping World Drag Racing Series himself as a driver, or whether he's just happy getting his feet wet and seeing what he can do. Angel Sempay, on the other hand, she wants to compete for wins and maybe titles in a division other than Pro Stock Motorcycle. This right here is a pretty cool car. Next weekend, you're going to see this car on the track at the U.S. Nationals in Indianapolis, Labor Day weekend. We're on Caps, paying tribute to his great friend and mentor, NHRA legend Don the Snake Prudhomme. The look is on CRN Live on YouTube right now, courtesy of NHRA.com. Napa, who's Caps' sponsor, you can see they're on the back of the car right there, and they've allowed the classic Hot Wheels logo and the old Snake logo that Prudhomme ran with that will be prominent on the sides of that Toyota funny car that Caps will pilot next weekend. I'm trying to go too fast here. Caps has a history with Prudhomme. Raced for Prudhomme's snake racing operation from 1997 through 2004 and won 13 events as owner and driver, Prudhomme and Caps. This year also will mark 2 milestone years for Prudhomme. 50 years since Prudhomme's win at the 1973 U.S. Nationals, and it's been 10 years this year since the film Snake vs. Mongoose came out, dealing one of the biggest rivalries in NHRA history. Speaking of Netflix, it used to be on Netflix. Might still be, I don't know. If you get the chance to find it and watch it, do so. It's actually quite good. All runs for the new Factory X division of the NHRA have been exhibition runs up to this point. Next weekend's going to be, well, no different, save for one aspect. There will, for the first time, be head-to-head races. No points, all exhibition, but head-to-head. 4 drivers in all have entered, including Greg Stanfield, Alan Johnson, Chris Holbrook, and Jim Cowan. Stanfield and Cowan are going to be running older-bodied Copo Camaros with modern engines. That's allowed in Factory X or Factory Experimental. Stanfield's going to feature a throwback paint scheme honoring the Rod Shop team. Cowan and his son Kyle built their car on their own in their American Racecraft shop in Arizona. They say they've powered it with a brand new supercharged Chevy LS engine. Not a weakling. Alan Johnson, as we mentioned several weeks ago on the show, has teamed up with Jeff Turk to run the Turk-built Blackbird X Dodge Challenger, the first entry in the division officially shown to the public. However, the car was heavily damaged in a testing accident that injured Turk, so Turk pulled himself out as the driver and enlisted Johnson to drive it while he continues to wrench on the car. So that'll be your Dodge or Mopar entry. And then the Ford camp is represented by Chris Holbrook, who's going to pilot a Cobra Jet Mustang that he built in his own shop in Michigan. Holbrook has a win under his belt, claiming a factory stock showdown win back in 2019 in Dallas. This car is the body of that ride, but using a new generation engine. Factory X allows for modifications that aren't allowed in factory stock. A minimum weight of 2,650 pounds, that's about 1,000 less than the factory stock minimum, and a manual transmission is mandatory in this class as well. Not the case in factory stock. Also different, the tires are taller and wider than factory stock, but no body modifications are allowed. The Camaro should pull off about 630 horsepower, as will the Challenger. The Cobra Jet Mustang output rated at 610. I don't know whether that'll make a difference. The power, less weight, and larger tires should allow for runs much quicker than factory stock. Factory stock can break into the mid-7s. They're thinking low 6-second range for Factory X. Couldn't quite get to Formula E. They've made a couple of things happen. Well, I can let you know this. We got a little bit of time. Noam McLaren has named their 2024 driver lineup. They're bringing in Formula E veteran Sam Bird to partner with Jake Hughes. The seat came available when Rene Rast decided to leave it and the series, likely to return to sports car racing. Bird, who's now 36, has been in Formula E since the series began in 2014, spent the prior 3 years with Jaguar and Envision before that. But Jaguar let Bird go when he didn't score a championship point over the final 8 races of the year. They're replacing him with Nick Cassidy. almost from the moment that he was let go, Bird was linked to McLaren, and he now will officially take over that seat next year and be a mentor to young Jake Hughes, who actually has performed pretty well. So hopefully that'll mean good things for the McLaren Formula E team. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for checking us out, be it on the radio, on the app, or on CRN Live on YouTube. We'll do it all again next week. Enjoy the racing. Thank you for checking us out on CRN.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.